Welcome to the Red Mountain Express, a podcast made in Birmingham, Episode 1. I'm Blake Westbrook, and along with me today, and always, will be Matthew Joyner. Matthew, how you feeling, man?
Doing great, man. How are you?
Good. Episode 1 after weeks of planning, actually a couple months of planning.
A couple of years of planning.
Is that what you've been doing, a
That's
couple years of planning?
What it feels like at this point. We released Episode 0, our introductory episode, 2 weeks ago. And
got a pretty good response from it.
Yeah, we got a good response from it. Some feedback from people we know, some feedback online, a lot of downloads. So glad to see that. Would like to hear more back from you. If you have more comments or feedback for us, remember you can go to redmountainexpress.com and leave feedbacks on our comment page, or you can comment on our Facebook page. And let us know what you think. Let us know what we need to improve. Let us know what you want to hear. Again, that's redmountainexpress.com. But since we've released Episode 0 and we've been working on Episode 1, I think we've had a good time. We've got a lot of good stuff here. This episode is shaping up to be good. We've got a few more episodes in the works already, and they're all shaping up to be good. So I think we're on a good track right now.
We really are. We actually have a really good episode. As a little bit later, we're going to be talking with Michael Sellers of the Good People Brewing Company. He is the co-founder and co-owner. So we're going to sit down with him and kind of find out what's going on over there and kind of the history behind Good People and also how they have managed to weave themselves into the fabric of the city of Birmingham. Mm-hmm. But first, Matthew, let's kind of talk about what's been going on in Birmingham the last couple of weeks, other than the rain, where it rained for 5 straight days. Luckily, as we're recording now, the sun is shining. I do see some blue sky, and hopefully we'll dry out here the next couple of days. But we had an article come out. I believe it was on Monday or Tuesday?
It was June 15th.
June 15th.
When the article was released.
From the New York Times. It's called 36 Hours of Birmingham, which is part of a series they do. And I know that they did a 36 Hours in Birmingham back in 2009, but this is a little bit more updated, especially since we've seen a lot of growth in the downtown Birmingham. What did you make of the article, Matthew?
The article overall was well written. I mean, I don't know that I could place any other articles to the author's credit. His name was Cheney Quack, Kwak. But the article was well done. Basically, they spent Friday, Saturday, and Sunday morning in Birmingham, and it goes through a rundown of the different things that they did while they were here.
It was really good. They went to the Naked Art that's over there in Forest Park, which is not far from Little Savannah and Zoe's in Forest Park. I will say this, that I was actually really excited. They mentioned a bunch of restaurants, because I think that's one of the most undervalued things about Birmingham is our food culture. We have, 5-star restaurants all the way down to some of the best barbecue. They talked about, Saul's Soul Kitchen, which is in Avondale, and Post Office Pies, all the way up to Highlands Bar Grill, which I think that is kind of rare when you talk about a city. A lot of people talk about its destinations and its museums, but one of the things I think that we can really hit on with Birmingham is our food.
Well, I think it's become more of a fad here recently, maybe not in the last couple of years, to see a lot of cities, especially southern cities, have a bigger food culture pop up. You've seen a lot of articles. You've heard a lot of people talk about them. You've seen TV shows, maybe the Food Network, that talk about the Birmingham restaurants or the Nashville restaurants. So they're not unheard of, and they're not really hidden gems so much anymore. But I think it's great that they're getting more exposure. These are some great places that are making top 10 lists in different magazines. There's a lot of hard work going into them. And on the other hand, they are employing people here in our city. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, and reading through this article, I also noticed that she went to the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute, which is one of the big stops when you come to Birmingham. But she also went to some of the new places. She went to the Bazit's Food Hall, which I have yet to go to.
I haven't either.
I've been to some of the restaurants, other locations. I know Melt's there. I've been to their location in Avondale. And she also went to the Redmont Hotel, which has just opened up, which is really good for Birmingham. They're taking these old buildings and old hotels and restoring them. I know the Redmont was open previously and they reopened it, but there's also a new hotel open up, the Empire, or actually it's going to be called the Ealaton Hotel, I believe.
Oh, I don't know about
That's going to be it's going to be part of, I want to say, Marriott's autograph collection. And I've stayed in an autograph collection in New York City. It's kind of a boutique hotel, and so that's really good to really focus on some of the revitalization that's going on in Birmingham. You see a lot of these old cities that have been turned, these old buildings that have been turned into lofts, that's been turned into storefronts, and I think you're starting to see that more and more in downtown Birmingham. Right. So it was a really, really good article. Please check it out online at the New York Times website. You should be able to access it there. But with the good always comes the bad.
Yeah, so let's talk about this.
There was an article from, and am I saying it right? I always get it backwards. Wall Street 24/7. No?
The website, at least, is 247wallst.com. So 247wallstreet.com.
Not the Wall Street Journal.
Not the Wall Street Journal.
And what they did is they made a list, at least I think there was like 100 on here, but I just kind of did the top 5 of worst places to live.
Worst cities to live in America.
And we are, drum roll please, number 2. And so the places they've mentioned here, I'm just going to go through the bottom 5 as I've been advised to say. Number 5, Memphis, Tennessee, great town. I've been to Memphis. Stayed at the Peabody, saw the Ducks. It was wonderful. St. Louis, Missouri, I've been to St. Louis. It's a great town. Flint, Michigan was number 3. Not been to Flint. I guess this has to do with more of the water situation they have going there. Number 2, of course, is the Magic City, and number 1 is Detroit. And when you look at this, it's mostly statistic based.
You say mostly, or is it all?
Oh, it's totally. Never mind. No, it's totally. They talk about how the median home value is $93,000. The poverty rate is 29.2%. Percentage with at least a bachelor's degree is 25%. And I know that they're focusing only on the downtown or the city limits of Birmingham. They're not looking at the metro area, which I know those numbers would improve.
They're not looking at the greater Birmingham.
The greater Birmingham area, you're right. So
the suburbs.
The suburbs and everything like that. Which, I mean, if you want to look at the downtown area, I mean, of course, I think we can all say that there are parts of Birmingham that are hurting. There is no doubt about that. But I think that you have to take into account the parts that you're starting to see growth in. And you're also starting to see growth in some of these neighborhoods that have not done so well in the past. But I don't think that these journalists really dug into the research, because, Matthew, you told me earlier that they have a distinguished list of articles.
Well, yeah, so as I was looking at this article, like you said, they really are only judging the cities based on their numbers, or based on the numbers that they're using, which seems very selective. It doesn't really paint the whole picture. So I got to looking at their other articles that they've written in the recent past, and it kind of painted a picture for me of who these guys are. Some of their other recent articles include 25 most important Star Wars characters, states profiting the most from sin, 9 ways to deal with robocalls.
There's 9 ways to deal with robocalls?
There are 9 different ways, according to these people.
Okay.
25 worst tasting beers in America. Good People is nowhere on that list. 9 stores closed on Thanksgiving, and 11 stores open on Thanksgiving, just in case you were curious. So as I was, and that's just a small selection. As I was looking through the list of articles that they've written, I got the idea, looking at the separate articles, that they do a lot of what I'm going to call clickbait. A lot of articles that are just easy to write. It almost looks like they're coming from a writing mill. Easy to write, easy to publish, to get out there. They look good on the internet. When you search for your city, it'll show up on this list, and people will click it because, hey, my city's on a top 25 list or a top 100 list. So it's a good way to get ad revenue that way. I don't know anything about these people personally, and I haven't looked through their whole journal history, so maybe they've got some really good articles, but from what I saw, I'm not completely impressed, and I'm not really convinced that this article itself merits a whole lot of weight.
Well, and we see these articles all the time, and some from really good news sources. There's no doubt about that. And Birmingham does have some problems, but I think that a lot of folks are really starting to see Birmingham come into a new light. Our downtown area is starting to flourish. Railroad Park has surpassed everybody's expectations. And I think something no one really talks about, and I can talk about this personally because I just went through there, is we have a wonderful airport too. Previously it was It was awful.
They've done a lot of work to improve the airport
Yeah.
over the last
So
few
it's a
years.
good front door for Birmingham. Now, of course, there needs to be better infrastructure improvements with the roads. There are neighborhoods that have seen blight. We need to tear down some of the homes that no one has lived in for years. That's all part of a revitalized city. That's going to take time. This is not something that happens overnight. But the numbers I believe are improving. I think we talked about earlier how it just came out that Birmingham is no longer. I mean, we're kind of, when it comes to population, we're steady now. For years, Birmingham was losing folks, and I think now you're starting to see that level off, and hopefully, here in the next couple of years, you'll start to see population growth.
Yeah, I think the latest census estimates show that our population has maintained a steady number for at least the last 4 years. So that's good.
Especially when you saw 10% population decrease, 5%, and so now I think people are starting to see that Birmingham is getting a second chance.
Right.
I
So you
think
see
we
an
would say.
article like this, and I think, well, on the one hand, it does a great job of bringing up topics like this for conversation. It's a good thing that we talk about this so we can take a look at ourselves and say, do we deserve this spot as the number 2 worst city to live in America? I don't personally think we do. I think there are cities out there that are worse. But it's a good thing to have a conversation and look at yourself in the mirror and look at what you can improve as a city. So I think that's important, even if I don't agree with the way the article is written.
Yeah, the last thing I want to talk about, Matthew, before we go to break is there is a new, the Birmingham Jefferson County Transit Authority opened up a new downtown Central Station. I think I've read the article. There was not a lot of coverage on this, which kind of shocked me because I've been following it. I've seen them building it. It looks great. It looks state of the art. But I believe it right now. Is it just buses? Have you followed this at all?
No, yeah. So it was completely off the radar for me until you mentioned it to me on Friday. I didn't even know it was happening. I hadn't seen the construction. I didn't know it was a thing. But apparently, the Birmingham Max Central Station has completed the first of 4 phases. The construction started back in 2014. I believe it's a $32 million project, but it includes Amtrak, Metro Area Express, Greyhound, and Megabus. Now, I don't know, and the article I'm looking at doesn't specify if all 4 of these companies are operating out of it currently or if all 4 of them will be operating as the project.
So I've got the article up too, and
Okay.
it says is expected to be completed by the end of June. So those modes of transportation, the Amtrak and the Greyhound bus, will come online at the end of June. But I think this kind of goes at a bigger issue when we talk about positive things about Birmingham is that we're pretty much plugged in on things that are going on in Birmingham, and this was something that was kind of off the radar.
Yeah, completely. Had no idea. And I don't know, okay, so does that speak to the lack of coverage for this project, or does it speak to the lack of concern and the lack of, in a complete sense, a good public transit system in our city?
Well, maybe it's kind of one of these things where they're trying to have a state-of-the-art facility to bring more folks who normally wouldn't take mass transit or in Birmingham.
Have you ever taken mass transit in Birmingham?
No.
No, I haven't either.
Yeah,
Do you know anybody that has?
I do not.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I do, other than a taxi cab.
Well, and I think we've talked about this before. When it comes, I've taken mass transits in other cities. I've taken the Metro in D.C. or the subway in New York.
Or what's the system in Atlanta?
The MARTA.
Yeah, the MARTA.
Yeah, I've taken those as well. And I think that the difference is when it comes to just bus is that you get on the bus, but you're in traffic with everybody else, and you're going to have stops and starts and then red lights, and does it save that much time? Now, there may be a cost advantage.
Sure, I'm sure it saves a lot of money.
But I would rather be in my car listening to my music with my air conditioner. But having said that, if there was a way for me to get to where I'm going quicker, with less stops, and to be cheaper, I'd be all for it.
Yeah, no. So if I could leave work, if I leave work at 5:00, if I could leave work and be on a bus or a train within 15 minutes, yeah, I'd be all for it. I don't want to go to a bus stop and wait until 5:45 and not get home until 6:30. Not to mention, I lived outside of the city limits, and I don't have a bus that would come bring me to my house. So I would have to have a bus drop me off at wherever I parked my car that day. And really, that doesn't seem like it'd be any more convenient than just driving directly to my place of work.
Not even that. I mean, do you think that Birmingham could support something like a train station, a rail? Not like what I wouldn't say something like the MARTA, because the MARTA is a whole different animal. But I've been to Denver. Denver has a light rail that goes around the city. I think that could be efficient, but would people use it?
I don't know. I want to say people would use it. I want to say that I would use it, especially when we're downtown on a weekend night, downtown for a baseball game. I want to say that would be a great system. That's something that people would use and get a lot of value out of. But I don't know. I don't know the numbers on how many people actually use our bus system currently, and I don't know that we can support that kind of infrastructure as we are right now.
So that's something we're going to keep an eye on here at the Red Mountain Express, and let us know what you think, not just on the transit situation, but also on the New York Times article and the 24/7 Wall Street article. You can comment on redmountainexpress.com. And with that, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back in just a moment with our guest, Michael Sellers of Good People Brewing Company. Today's episode of the Red Mountain Express is brought to you by Beecham Woodworks. Beecham Woodworks is a locally owned and operated wood shop in Birmingham, Alabama, specializing in custom furniture and small home goods. Chris and Kanan Beecham create a wide variety of unique pieces of all sizes, ranging from cutting boards to farmhouse tables. Using wood sourced from Alabama sawmills, Beecham Woodworks create affordable quality pieces that will be one-of-a-kind fixture for your home. So support your local woodworker and visit beechamwoodworks.com. That's BEACHUM woodworks.com. Check out the link in our sponsors page of our website, redmountainexpress.com, or check them out on their Facebook or Instagram. Beecham Woodworks, turning your house into a home. And welcome back to the Red Mountain Express. We are now out of the studio and coming to you from downtown Birmingham at Good People Brewing Company, and that's because our guest on the show today is the co-founder and co-owner of Good People Brewing Company, Mr. Michael Sellers.
Hey,
Thanks
guys.
for being with us today.
Michael, how's it going?
Good. Thanks for coming down and seeing us.
No, thank you for letting us. We appreciate it.
So one thing I've always wanted to ask you, and kind of anybody that owned a brewery, is what in the hell led you to open up a brewery? It's not exactly an occupation you go to college for.
Sure, no, and when we did it, there wasn't a lot of people doing it, so it was, a lot of it. There's a lot of naivete on our part doing that, but we were home brewers. We were in corporate America both. Jason was in the finance world. I was in the software world, but we did this as a hobby, and we both.
Now, was homebrewing legal?
No, no, it wasn't. That's where you get the legally brewed. It's 2008 reference. But we had both done a lot of extensive overseas jaunts, and I think we got a kind of a taste for a deeper product than kind of what we were finding in American Pilsners, macro premiums. So we like I say, being naive sometimes is a good thing, right?
Yeah.
And how that came about is I was in Birmingham, Jason was in Nashville, and I don't know if you guys remember at 5 Points there was that in the mid 90s that brew pub.
That's right.
Yeah, and so they had that equipment still there. It had remained empty for 10 years.
I heard a rumor that there was still beer in the
there was in the vats when we got there to clean it out.
But that was funky.
Yeah, it was awful. Like I can remember there was a bucket in the back that had a liquid in it, and I was like, man, I'm sure we're gonna pull the head out of this thing. I just know we are. But yeah, I mean, I think we acquired that in the fall of 2007, and we cleaned for about 7 or 8 months straight to get it done. So we put our first Magic City Brew Fest in 2008. And then put our first product out officially on July 4th, 2008.
So you guys, you quit your day jobs and just took a leap of faith, or?
Well, yeah. So Jason quit his day job first and moved from Nashville to Birmingham, and then I was still working, and I kind of came out of, when 2008 came around and everything went bad. That was a good time to jump. I jumped in 2009. Yeah. So.
Cool.
What made you? Why Birmingham? Why not Hoover or Mountain Brook or Vestavia?
Right. Well, first, we're both from Birmingham. We're both born here. I grew up in South Alabama, and Jason grew up in Tennessee, but we have family here, and that's where our roots are. So that was one aspect of it. but I tell you, I've always kind of thought Birmingham was a kind of a diamond in the rough, right? We always get beat up and picked on. But but you can talk to many people who've moved here either by accident or by no choice of their own, and then they stay. And there's plenty of examples of people who are like, man, this is kind of a secret. I'm glad for it. Yeah.
I did the same thing. I moved here in 2011, and I told my wife I'll never live in Birmingham. Then I moved here, and I was like, that's a pretty cool town.
Yeah, it's not bad. Like we don't have everything in the world to do, but we're small, so we're a big small town. People know everybody. And to a certain degree, it's easy to maneuver this town in business and that it's not in bigger scenarios or bigger towns. So we love this town. We think it's a great town, and I think you're seeing this resurgence of the downtown. And I know that's a national trend, but I think ours has been a lot faster than other people's.
Right.
So I think that's a testament to what kind of people are in this town and what kind of town it is, for sure.
Sure. So opening up a brewery in Birmingham, were there any specific challenges you faced due to like state laws or local laws?
Right. I mean, look, since we were kind of on the first side of things, there were challenges in state laws, and obviously that's where Free the Hops came in as a customer advocacy group, right? So they were looking at more from a consumer side of things, which align with the manufacturers or suppliers side of things too. They loosened up a lot of the laws that allow different products to come to market. So Free the Hops was a huge influence on the growth of the brewing industry, and I do think that will now stem into spirits as well. But
sure.
They were a huge aspect there, and a lot of that was just people would say things about the laws in Alabama, and to be fair, there really was only wholesalers and retailers for a long time. So there was never really any need for consideration of manufacturers. Manufacturers before us were these big, huge, multi-billion-dollar conglomerates in St. Louis and Milwaukee. So there was a reason to kind of position yourself to protect against other folks. And then when these smaller businesses start coming in, then you have to look, well, there's this emergence of our local folks or local taxpayers now creating this environment or this industry that we need to consider. So that really did help us. And now Free the Hops, obviously pushed the ball way down the road. And now the Alabama Brewers Guild is starting to pick up some of that as well to kind of look at more laws that may be beneficial for all tiers instead of just two tiers.
And can you speak anything specifically to that? So, like, what's the next legal or political hurdle that needs to be faced?
I think that's something we always kind of are thinking about. We don't really have a confirmed agenda as it is. We are really happy for the obviously this on-premise law that passed. Those are some things. I think that we will probably come out with some more agenda things in the upcoming months, year. But you want to be careful with what you ask for too, right?
Sure,
you might just get it. So you really want to do some deep thoughts before you start trying to encourage policy issues, for sure.
Are you surprised by the best word would be the explosion of craft beer in Alabama? I mean, y'all started back in 2008,
sure,
and there was only maybe a few or a handful in Alabama. And now you go to every town, there's a local brewery.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to have conceive that would be the case, and it's really good to a point. Again, too much of a good thing, is that a good thing?
Exactly.
Right. So we are getting to a bit of a saturation point where there's a lot of pressure on all tiers. Right. Supplier, wholesaler, and retailer. So I think just by free market, you're going to start seeing some governors on what everybody can do. But
sure.
It's been great to now, and people are putting out some really good products. And if you're a craft beer enthusiast, this is a great time. This is the golden age.
Absolutely,
of craft beer, for sure.
Great.
Let me ask you this: Good People, you're the Alabama's largest brewery. You've been in business for 9 years now. You distribute to 4 states, is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
So at what point in this whole adventure of Good People Brewing Company did you realize you had something special? That you were like, oh, this is bigger than I thought it would be?
It's hard to say. I mean, you get into the weeds so much, I don't think you ever kind of see that. You're always looking for the next opportunity. I don't feel like you ever feel like you're out of the woods. And I think that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Because you're always trying to improve and like, oh, if we can just get to here, then I can take a breath. And then you get there like, oh, wait, we got 5 more things we need to take care of before. So I don't see us as we're there yet.
Right.
Like there's a million things that you look around that most people don't see that we're like, okay, if we can only get that done, then this is
the
good.
next thing will be easier.
But then there's another opportunity or there's another problem that you need to face. So, yeah, I think it's better to look at when did the industry itself, when did you realize the industry had reached that point? Because I think individually, I hope that nobody ever is kind of complacent with it. And when you say, hey, I think that you look at those laws that free the hops were really instrumental in changing. Each one of those was a big deal. And the first one was probably the biggest deal because it gave the momentum and let other people come to market, let other beers from outside the state come to market.
And that was the raising of the alcohol
That's
level, right?
Right. So that was probably the biggest for consumers, which gave this huge motivation. We got new outside big players coming in, people were sampling beer, and so it just had this huge momentum effect. And then the second would be on-premise sales, being able to have tap rooms. It's developed a really cool culture that I think that's been the second thing to expand kind of the consciousness of craft beer in our state, for sure. So if you take it out of when did we kind of feel it, I don't know if we were ever going to do that. But the industry itself, I think you can put your finger on those two to say, oh, that's
when it kind of turned for
these are
for
some
the better.
changing moments. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
So you moved from your old location to this location in 2010, is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess Railroad Park was just starting to open up there.
Yeah, Railroad Park, I mean, when we first came over here, Railroad Park was still dirt. I mean, there were some dirt movers out there, but there was no trees or anything like that. Yeah.
So what made you choose this location? Was there a lot of planning that went into it? I mean, did you know that Regents Field
We
would
were
be
just looking
here?
for cheap rent close, right?
Yeah, okay.
You hit the jackpot, man.
Well, rent doesn't stay the same year after year. Let me say
No,
that.
right.
Well, just saying the location of you got
Yeah, no.
Regions Field across the street, you got Railroad Park.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that's that's kind of what happened, and we got really lucky in 2 regards. At first, we were looking at the Regents Field might go here on top of us, and that was the thing. And then my understanding was Merida over here. You remember the old Merida, Baker's Row now, was it was going to be too expensive to move them, so they made a deal, I believe, or whatever it is, to get across the street, which saved us maybe our business, right? Like, so that was a really good situation there. And you go from being the most unlucky to the luckiest type thing. So yeah.
That's great. That's awesome. So what's next down the road for Good People? What do you think your next big consumer-facing hurdle is, or your next big offer?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, I think we're always going to, I think that the key now to the craft beer is where we've always been in uncharted waters. Like, this is new to everybody. It's new to the retailers, new to the wholesalers, new to everybody. Even though people claim that they kind of have it figured out, nobody has it figured out. And there are currently 7,000 licensed manufacturer in the States.
Wow.
There's 50 states.
Yeah.
Do the math.
Wow.
Divide that up, and there's a lot of competition out there.
It's a crowded market.
It's a crowded market. So trying to find that path is an everyday thought. Like, it's what is the answer to keep moving forward, to show growth. Like, it's hard to show growth in that environment. So I think our next big thing is, which should always be our biggest thing, is working to get better, looking at better processes, looking to be more efficient, but always keeping our eye on the consumer and what's going on in the market. And And in this world, the craft beer is super dynamic, and what is popular this year is not popular last year.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I can remember when big stouts were the rage.
Yeah.
It's hard to give it. It's hard to give it away now.
I'm sorry they're gone. Personally,
You remember, but we still have them, but they're just not the volume,
Yeah.
the volume that it once was. So, you know, now people are more in just. You see a sour trend coming, and at some point you're like, how long do you bet on the sour trend before?
Right.
Or you had the IPA trend, the sour trend, you know, and you know, there's always, hey, light lagers are the 2018 thing. You know,
Yeah.
somebody declares that to be the case. So those are the challenges, and kind of what you always look towards is how do you manage in this maybe a more complex environment than we're used to. Yeah.
sure.
Tell me something about Good People Brewing Company that people don't know.
I don't. We have a third partner. A lot of people don't know. Eric Schultenover. He is an attorney up in, or he was an attorney. He's not now, but he is our partner up in Nashville. He's been around since, you know, the very early days of that, and he kind of he helps us in a lot of different more financial ways and that kind of thing. But very integral part to our management team for sure. So a lot of people they only see Jason and I because we're the ones here.
Right. Yeah.
There's a third partner that's the equity is the same. So yeah.
Cool.
He gets down every now and again for sure.
Awesome. All right. So, look, Michael, thank you for having us. This
Thank
interview's
you,
been
guys.
great.
Yeah.
If I can ask one more question.
Sure.
Can you give us a Red Mountain exclusive and tell us what the next beer on the menu is going to be?
The Northeastern IPA came out yesterday.
All right. Describe that beer for anybody that's
So
curious.
I don't know if you know this, but this is another beer. We're calling it a hazy IPA. So it's a little more juicy, meaning it's going to have a lot more juice flavor notes to it, and it's also hazy. So the yeast that is used doesn't it suspends in the product. So that's something that I like for everybody to kind of come in and try and give us your feedback, because in the tap room, this is the shop, right? This is where we tweak and we see things, and we want people's feedback, and before we commit to it, going to the next level, which would be draft or whatever. So if everybody can come in and just give it a shot and give us our feedback, we can tweak stuff here, we can move things around and try to get a flavor profile that's meets our customers' wants and needs for sure.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you for being with us here today.
Thanks, guys.
We really do appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
And that's going to about do it for us here on this edition of the Red Mountain Express. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and please go check our page at iTunes, subscribe to the show, and leave us a review. The more reviews you leave us, the better we'll be able to improve and provide the type of show that you want. And also remember to visit us at redmountainexpress.com. For Matthew Joyner, I'm Blake Westbrook, and we will see you next time.